Hit record. So there we go. Welcome everybody to tonight's Zoom. My name is Julianne Peterson. I'm with Old Capital Lending. We have closed over 5,700 loans, 1.1 billion in loans over the last year. Please keep us in mind when it comes to financing. So I will be your host tonight. I welcome you all here. I hope that the coronavirus, COVID-19 is keeping you all safe. I know today I was able to get out to one of my properties that now is vacant. And, you know, I've told you this story. I make $2.49 a month on this property. So we put it up for sale and now nobody can come see it with the coronavirus. So it is a real challenge, as you guys are probably finding if you're looking at properties. And I do want to encourage you to still be discussing, still be talking to your brokers. Have them on top of their mind, you on top of their mind. So when you're calling them, that they're well aware of what your strategy is and what your criteria is, so that they continue to look for places for you. Anybody new on, I see a couple new faces. Let's see. Let me see. I think, oops. Again, I'm using my iPad tonight. Here we go. No? Boom. Out of here. Okay. Oh, what happened to my picture? Wait a minute. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So, Naveen, is that how you say it? Or Nick?
Yeah. Hi, Julie. Yeah, Naveen.
Naveen. Okay, you've been with us before. Where have you been?
I mean, I've been just around, but I haven't been able to prioritize this particular meeting, but I haven't disappeared. Lately, I've been able to kind of stick my head back into multifamily stuff. So, I mean, long term, I'm definitely committed. It's just making progress, because I moved from the West Coast to the East Coast. So I'm trying to figure out where do I want to focus, which markets. So, you know, I'm not in any massive rush, but definitely I'm committed to multifamily.
Okay. So kind of and so what are you finding in your area? Are you seeing real estate moving on like single family? And are you, when you're dealing with brokers, are you seeing things moving, or are they sitting?
I mean, right now I've been paying a little more attention because of just the way things have gone in the last month. I haven't talked to brokers in certain areas yet. I'm trying to figure out which geos I want to focus on. I have a feeling probably in the southeast region, probably Jacksonville up through, I'm in Northern Virginia. So probably along the coast side, maybe as far in as Atlanta. So Atlanta, Nashville, and then along the coast. So I really am wanting to spend more time, and I've contacted a few folks that are in here, as well as other multifamily folks that I know. So to answer your question, I haven't been contacting brokers right now because I've been spending more of my time analyzing where do I want to focus on which geos. So for me, I like to really get that story nailed down hard and then drill deeper.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, and that's a great place to start. So keep doing that. That's great. Terrence, what's your update? Haven't seen you here in a while.
Hey, Julia. No updates for me at the moment. Just got back 2 days ago, so really trying to just get back into the normal feel of things. When I left, everything was still kind of normal in Washington, and now I just got back, so different.
So I'm curious. So Terrence is a ranger. Well, you tell us what you've been doing, because you've been away for a little while.
Yeah, so I was at a month of training down in California, like the Barstow area, big desert area. So we just do like a month of training down there when we come back. But it was good. Good training went well. But yeah, when I left, we were like on the fringe of something, and now it's obviously full blown pandemic.
So do you practice social distancing when you're out there, or how do they manage that?
Yeah. So when we got done training, everything now is social distancing, minimal manning requirements, like trying to make sure that the military does not get a lot of people sick, because we don't want, anything that could happen around the world. Got to be prepared. So that's like the number one thing is right now is readiness. So with that, safety is number two, essentially.
Okay. Well, welcome back. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for support. Glad to be back.
Yeah. All right, Chris. Chris is back with us. What has happened over the last week for you, Chris?
What hasn't happened? A lot. You talk about the Zoom, man. Yeah, I think I had 7 or 8 Zoom calls and webinars in one day. And it's been kind of nonstop. I even started writing another short. I just started writing a short. I don't know if it's going to be a book or a story or a free download on the deal I'm working right now, because it's gotten so wild and crazy that I just think everyone's going to love hearing what I've gone through from the very beginning. I'll give it to pretty much everyone in Slack and all that, but whatever I do with it, it's going to be interesting. So I think I've written like, I don't know, 5,000 or 6,000 words of that so far. So I've been busy. Matter of fact, I'll probably have to break off and give my counter offer to my broker. So yeah, lots been going on. Just been working deals. We closed, I don't know if I was on the call last, but we closed our Marina Point deal, 104 units, like about 10 days ago. And we already in, I think, 10 days have 4 units that are about to go live. That's how quick our construction crew was in there on the ground working. So I think next week we have 4 units coming on live, and we have some tenants lined up to take those. So we're anticipating being fully occupied in that building within just a couple of months, which is awesome. And we have found that, just food for thought, with us, going through this transition right in the middle of this virus issue, that we have had no tenants really communicate with us with distress or issues, or, we can't pay our rent or anything. I think in general, at least so far, our tenants kind of feel like, well, we're okay right now because it's just occurred, and then we're going to get some reprieve. And so they're not really panicking, which is really encouraging. I don't know how it's going to be across the board. We have 104 units, so we do have a lot of tenants in that one building. And then I personally, with all the rentals that I have, aside from that deal I'm on over there in Virginia, I reached out proactively to all my tenants, and a few of them have called me and just asked, hey, I'm going to be a little short, but I'll make it up on the next month. Am I good? And have just been really cool about things. Nobody's freaking out, which is really cool, because that's where the rubber meets the road, is like your tenants and what's really going on, not what the news tells you, right? Because it's all panic out there right now. And then in my business world, because I own several businesses, I've been on different mastermind calls. I've been on webinars and podcasts with all kinds of business owners and people in different industries. And again, because the government is dumping so much liquidity and so much like help out there that's going to be coming down the pipe, and small business loans that'll be forgiven, nobody's really panicking. Everyone's kind of unsure. So that's very encouraging. And then on my deal, I'm in the middle of negotiating a deal, but I've gone back and asked, just food for thought, on a different 100+ unit deal I'm working on for a 90-day due diligence and 30-day extension. And they came back with a counter where I get 60 days with a 30 and a 30. And I'll get the last 30 if I can explain why the virus has affected my due diligence and why I need the last 30. So just for any of you that are thinking about deals and due diligence right now, that's what they agreed upon. And before, we were just on basically a 30-30. And then I'm going back with a 90-day finance contingency, which it was a 60-day. So I'm in the heat of the moment right now, working a deal. I'm also using it as leverage to get the price down, because obviously we're gonna be affected by more economic vacancy. And just food for thought, per something Julia said over and over again, I have underwritten a break-even point on my first year of a combined bad debt and vacancy of about 22%. That's my break even. So I can pay all the bills if it gets that bad, right? Obviously we anticipate it not being that bad. But we also we even went a step further, went to like 27% just to see what that would look like in our model. So I would just tell all of you, as this whole thing is coming about, don't just put your head in the sand. I've been on dozens and dozens of webinars and calls lately with lots of industry people, and some people are bullish, some people are bearish. You have to find your own comfort level. But for me, I really feel it's not just 90 days and 6 months that there will be deals. I feel like there's deals all the time, and I'm not giving up. I'm going to keep fighting and battling and searching and just grinding. And I may be the one that gets it early. If not, then hey, I'll be in the bucket with everyone else in 6 months when everyone decides to come out of their shell. But I would just encourage everyone to just keep doing what you're doing. Keep underwriting deals, keep talking to bankers. I probably talk to bankers every other day. I'm just trying to feel out the market and just go after it. So that's the short story of what I've been up to lately.
Nice. You know, Gary will have a chapter in your book about his experience. So then you guys can, you know, co-author that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, one last thing too. Sorry, I forgot to add. That would be fabulous. I'd love to put together a little mini book of first deals or like dynamic deals where we just share nuts and bolts, nitty gritty, what you really went through and not the fluff. So people could truly see how hard it is to write a 100-unit, $10 million deal or whatever from the ground up, right? And I'm talking, you know, shorter stories. You don't have to get into major in depth. But the other thing I'm working on is I'm reworking Michael Blanc's SDA, and Mark is helping me a little bit with that on the CapEx tab. Today I got back some of the work I was doing. I'm working back and forth with somebody on adjusting a waterfall tab that we can add that will allow us to change to preferred return A shares and then a B share, not fully integrated with the whole model of the SDA, but just an additional tab where if you got to a point where we could underwrite deals that were that profitable, like they were pre this issue we have now, you would be able to say, well, if I had an A share and I wanted to pay a preferred return to just A share people, maybe it's half your capital raise, then you could go down to the B shares and maybe just share what's left over with them. It would allow you to see that, because right now you can't see that in the SDA. So it's kind of cool. So we'll have a revised CapEx tab and a waterfall return tab. And if Michael allows me to share that, because it's his tool, then I will. If not, then I can explain how I did it to everybody. So.
That's great. We'll definitely look forward to seeing that.
Yeah. Mark, how do you pronounce your last name? Ferrari?
Ferreira. Is
Ferreira. Yeah, Mark and I are working on the CapEx.
I don't see you.
Thanks, Mark. Props to Mark. You see, Mark, I put you on the spot. Now you got to finish it.
No problem. Julie, I guess I'm next. So I'm not doing much right now. I'm actually I guess what Chris is saying not to do. I'm hunkering down. But you know, I'm
trying to get him out.
I'm trying to do investor communication, trying to get like a template for me and my partners. I have 2 other guys that I've been working with, and we're trying to get like investor communication going, like something solid, a template, and looking at content for monthly newsletter. So I'm definitely working on the business, but I haven't spoken with brokers. They have been silent, and I should be touching base with them, because I think I've been preaching that, I think, to guys to go out and keep in touch with your brokers. So I need to do that. But pretty much, yeah, it's been quiet on the syndication side, but I'm still working it in terms of like deals aren't there. I mean, the deal flow has pretty much dried up. I'm not getting any, the emails aren't coming through with all those deals that I used to be getting. So we'll just have to, wait and see.
So I want to ask you, Mark, let's go back to what your thoughts are on the SDA. Just some stopgaps that you would want to put in, so that, like, as Chris said, 22% bad debt. vacancy. What are you doing, or what's your recommendation for putting things into the SDA? I know it's been extremely quiet.
Yeah, I've been following what some of the other advisors have been saying in terms of like if I am helping underwriting right now, I'm not underwriting anything for me personally, but with with people that are submitting SDAs, we're going with what basically with, I think it was Josh Cooper, Chris had some guidelines that he's been using. I'm just going with that. Like it's between, in terms of economical vacancy, it's really, we don't know yet. Like the date is not there yet. We're waiting on, I guess, April 5th. Supposedly we'll see how the collections are, and then May 5th. So we're waiting a couple of months in terms of seeing what the data is, because really we don't have data to work with yet. We will know soon, but it could be, and how long does that last too? So we could have, we could see economical vacancy go really, skyrocket, I guess. We don't know. Like I've listened to like Neil Bawa and some other syndicators that are saying, anywhere from 15 to 50% economical vacancy. So, we don't know yet. So the data is not there. And, like Neil is data driven, and everything's about data and benchmarks and everything. So we'll have to see in terms of like how, confidently underwriting right now. Chris is doing it right now. I think, Chris doesn't know either. He doesn't have a crystal ball either, but he's got the courage to do what he's doing, and he's putting in metrics that, he feels pretty comfortable with. And I just go with that, since I'm not really underwriting a deal for myself. I'm not in there right now, but I would say, I would go with Chris. Whatever Chris is doing right now is probably, something that if he feels comfortable with, that's probably something that we should think about. But I think you really got to be solid on the deal too. Like I think Chris feels really comfortable about the deal. He wouldn't be getting into it. He has a lot of contingencies in place too. He's got all these extensions, so he's got time to see what the market's going to do as well. So he'll see, the next couple of months of the the rent rolls, right?
Can I give you guys just some quick, to your point, reasons why I'm there so that people understand? Because you're right. We could be 20 to 50, right? Because I've been on a lot of those calls as well where the experts are like, don't do anything. Some of them, don't do anything for 90 days. Don't do anything for 6 months and all of this. That's just not the way the world works. Like I personally wouldn't have all the success in business that I have if I just listened to people that said, well, don't do that. That's crazy. Because somewhere in there is a silver lining, right? It's just, are you the one that's going to find it, right? Like deals. Sure, it may be tough to find deals, but today, if you're grinding, you might find the one owner who is freaking out right now, who's like, I just want to dump this property because I don't even want to know what the economic vacancy is going to be. So I'll sell it at 50 cents on the dollar. Do you want to miss that deal because you had your head in the sand? That's the reality. Maybe far and few between, but it could be out there. So let me just tell you real quick why I'm at where I'm at, because to your point, Mark, I would have probably been at 30 or 40%, but here's why. My rents, and this is important to know when you're underwriting deals, my rents currently are the lowest in the entire market by hundreds of dollars a month, okay? By far in the market. So we are literally the bottom feeder of the entire market. So when you think about what's going on out there in the industry, where are they gonna go if they can't rent for my rent? They're going to go into a mobile home park or go live with mom, right? And the thing is, right now, we are still way under inventoried in the real estate market from where we were in 2008. They didn't build for like 6 years, basically, right? We're still catching up. And Julie's not her head. She knows the market. She knows real estate, right? They know mortgages. So unlike before, where we had a mass exodus of foreclosures and all this stuff and all these houses on the market, we had like $1.5 million of inventory on a monthly average. Our normal is like 500,000-600,000 homes. We had like 1.5 million. We're still not even up to our normal rate right now. So when you think about the issues that we're going to come out of, the people freaking out, the bad owners that are going to lose their single family homes or lose their multifamilies, there's not even as many as we had before for the amount of people that need them. It's a supply and demand issue. So while I do agree, we don't know what's going to happen, and there is probably going to be some economic hardship and some unemployment and all that. We also have never had somebody dump $2 trillion the first round into making sure that people continue to get cash flow and continue to get back to work. That's never happened. So when I look at this, I look at the virus like a temporary thing. We had a fine economy. The stock market was a little overblown, but we had a fine economy. I mean, it wasn't like we were falling apart or anything. So as soon as we can get this damn virus behind us, I really have a feeling we're going to bounce back. It might take a while. When I'm looking at the multifamily space, I'm not thinking, okay, everyone's going to move out of the places, especially C-class. Like, where do they go, right? Right? And we may have economic vacancies. We may have bad debt, but are they really going to move out? Like my building right now is 100% occupied, and it's the lowest rents in the market by hundreds of dollars. So if I went in with my model and didn't touch the rent for 12 straight months, my break even is at 22% vacancy right now. You think I'm going to pass up a deal like that? I mean, like, is it likely that my building is going to have a mass exodus with the lowest rents at 100% occupancy? No way. And if I have, like Mark said, 4 months really to make the final call with no money going hard, I think that's plenty of time for the lenders to figure it out and for me to make my final decision. The only money I'll be out is a little bit more due diligence costs that I've dumped in, right? And I've already been out there once, so I don't have a problem going out again, a couple grand or whatever. So I just wanted you to understand my methodology, because everyone has to come up from their own position, their own way of thinking. But that was my thought process, and that's why I feel very confident about the deal. I've also been working on this deal for like 4 months. So, and we've worked into this situation, which has changed the dynamic, but it doesn't change my confidence in the deal. So I hope that helps.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
definitely.
That's
Yeah,
great.
I think, you know, only time has helped you on that one, Chris. I mean, it was a mess before, and you know, I think you're positioned really well, and I'll be anxious to hear how it goes when you maybe put in your lower price. It'll be great to see what their thoughts are on that. So, all right. So Gary, let's hear from you. I want to know. So you took the property over. What was it? Thursday or Friday?
Yeah, it was the 28th of February.
Okay.
So we've had it, you know, about 4 weeks now, and you know, we have a lot of ambitions to get a lot of work done, and the whole situation has kind of slowed us down. You know, we're trying to get, you know, trees trimmed, hallways painted, carpets torn up, and you know, people aren't really able to come out. In fact, we got a bunch of tree work that needs to be done, and the tree guy called. You know, it's like, it was pretty convenient. He's like, I'll take a video of the whole project and I'll send it to you. I don't want to meet you. I'm like, okay, that's great. So we do have some big projects. We got some cameras we want to install, and we're anxious to get that done. We've got the funding to do it, but it's, you know, we're just not able to get things moving as quickly as we want. So there is a lot of stuff we're doing, though. We're working a lot with the property manager. We have a weekly call with him. We had one today. And, you know, we're trying to push him to get things done. And he's like, I'm like, you cannot move too fast for us. You know, like, we've got a couple of vacancies, and he's like, well, we'll go through them and we'll give you a list of what needs to be done, and we'll work up the cost. And, you know, we kind of want this stuff faster than he's delivering it. So we're trying to get that message to him. It's like, you know, we really want, you know, you to go through this stuff, give us the numbers. We're going to give you the, you know, the direction to go forward. You know, because by the end of, I think by today, we're now going to be up to 3 vacant units. And, we're just, want to get these things up and online, so, we're just trying to build that relationship with the property manager and, kind of set expectations. So we had one unit that they leased this past week. We were told, well, we can't really show it because nobody's going to, they don't want the leasing agent going out there.
Mm-hmm.
John and I were like, we're going to go do it then. In fact, these turnover units that we got going on, we're like, we talked to the guy today and said, if you haven't got the manpower because you let your guys go, John and I are going to be there with our pickup trucks and paintbrushes. We got 2 units we got to get turned, so sounds like he's going to get on the stick, but we're really trying to push this. I don't know if that's a typical experience, but he's giving us like basically, a tenant moves out, it's a week turnaround for him to go through it, figure out what it needs, give us a list of materials. It's like, in my personal rental, experience, I'm showing the place before it's ready.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we'd rather have done. He had like 1 unit advertised on his site. It didn't syndicate out to Zillow and HotPads and Trulia like it was supposed to. I don't know what happened there. So I threw an ad out myself. I had like 20 responses in like 3 days. It was just overwhelming.
Wow.
It's a great area. I found that we are way under market. We're listing we're now up to 765 on the 2 bedrooms with heat included, and I think we could go another $50 without batting an eye. So the market looks good. We're under rent for the area. It's a terrific area. I built a website this week just to, we're trying to do stuff, right? So I got the website up. I put a link on there to get on our waiting list. Told the property manager, I said, when we rent a unit, we don't want to take the ad down. That's what he did. Had, a unit that was for rent, and then they rented it, and he took the ad down. I'm like, no, we want the ad to be there, constantly. Don't be taking it down. Let's build a waiting list. So we're just trying to set our expectations of what we think, how things should go.
Wow, that is amazing. I'm proud of you for pushing. It's as a new person into multifamily, you kind of have to navigate these waters the first couple times. Like, how do I do this? What are my expectations? And I think that is very common coming from your own management of your own assets to going then giving it away. It's you're doing the right thing. Stay on top of them. I would highly recommend. Have everything in writing. Have goals for them in terms of where you want to be in 10 days and 30 days and 60
Yep.
days. So they're all clear about that.
Yeah, we put together an agenda. We have a weekly call at from 9:30 to 10:30. We're distributing notes after the meeting. This is what you said you'd do. This is when you said you'd have these units ready. Because we've been finding he doesn't seem to be like a real action guy. It's like, oh yeah, I think we're going to get going on that. No, you said by Friday that unit was going to be ready. So we're trying to hold him to it. But yeah, we don't want to just like hope that everything's going to work out.
Yeah.
We'll let up after a while, but right now our foot's on the gas. Let's keep these vacancies low, get these places turned over. So that's kind of what we're doing there.
So Gary, I'm curious, and I'd like to have you share with everybody else. So you get the keys. Tell us, like, that first week, how does that takeover go? What did you do the next day? That next day would have been Saturday, right?
Yeah.
When did you send out the letters to say that you're changing? And tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So our property manager sent out the letter, as well as the previous owner, saying that we were going to be under new management. John and I went out there, and we just were checking the place out, making sure everything was in order, according to what our expectations were. The on-site guy, the superintendent, was not retained by the previous owner, but our property manager picked him up.
Oh,
So he's there, but he's employed by the new property manager, so that kind of worked out.
oh, that's great. That's Don, right?
Don, yeah, yep.
Oh, that's
So
great. I'm glad.
he's working out. He's doing what he's been doing, handling some turnover, painting the units, taking care of couple of the things that by being there, I picked up a little bit of what's going on, right? So I'm overhearing Don talking to a tenant, telling him, you don't need to rent a parking spot, for the whole year, just, rent it in the winter time. And so I went to the property manager the next day and I'm like, yeah, we can't have the guy on site telling our tenants they don't need to be renting from us,
Wow, that's crazy.
So, you kind of, get a vibe for what's going on. So our the superintendent's kind of being a friend to the tenants, but not necessarily helping our business by telling tenants they, don't need to abide by rules or they don't need to rent garage space, stuff like that. But anyway.
Was there anything that was a surprise to you within that first 10 days of ownership that you said, darn, I didn't know about this, or that cost you some extra money, or any surprises?
Nothing really. We had one unit where there was a water pipe break, and it ended up the tenant was not really staying there much anyway, but the carpet soaked. It was something that the tenant had said there was the issue had been going on for a while, so somebody wasn't really paying attention. So he's not renewing his lease. I told the property manager, I said, I never want to hear that we're losing a tenant because of maintenance issues. If we're not addressing it, and it's not on him, he's new, but I just said that's, in my 20 years of renting, I've never lost a tenant because of my lack of performance, so, that was, and maybe that's the maintenance guy kind of knew that. So that was kind of two strikes against Don. It's like, yeah, we lost a tenant because of an issue that wasn't resolved for him. I guess his pipe was dripping, for a while, and, it wasn't taken care of. So,
No surprises other than that.
No real surprises. That's been just making sure we're collecting the rents, trying to work. We're hiring a bookkeeper that's going to track our expenses and rent income, and we need to get them working with the property management, somehow get their systems integrated so that we can have visibility into that. I don't want to wait a month to find out that we haven't been collecting rents.
So I'm curious, and not just for you, Gary, but for everybody else on the call. So if any of you guys have properties, and now we're up to April 1st, which is, rent is due tomorrow. I actually got all my payments. I started receiving payments like on the 19th. So all my tenants have paid.
For April?
Pardon me?
For April?
For April, yes.
Oh my God. I want your property manager.
Yeah, that's me.
I want you. Come on up to New York.
So I'm anxious to hear from you, Gary, and then from everybody else as to, have you put out a letter? Have you put anything in place? There's a lot of webinars going on right now talking about how to communicate with your tenants, especially right now, because there's, the stimulus packages, right, coming out. How much is that going to cover for their rents? And are they laid off? And if they're laid off, they've got unemployment. We've seen unemployment go to 3.3 million. If you've seen the graphs, I mean, it's huge increase. And I was listening to an economist this week that said, don't be surprised if we're going to be at 27 million in 4 weeks. I mean, crazy unemployment. So the question is, are you putting out either phone calls or letters to your tenants? And are you saying, hey, you don't need to pay, or how much can you pay, or we expect you to pay? And if you're having problems, then it's on the tenant to come and talk to us, and then we can put a strategy together. So Gary,
Yeah. So
tell
my
me.
my personal properties, I've got 20 tenants myself.
Mhm.
I communicated with them. I sent them all a text message, basically. If you are affected and you feel that you're not going to be able to pay your rent, let me know now, and we'll see what we can do. That's basically was my message to them. Every single one of my tenants responded back saying, I'm cool, it's not going to be any issue. So I was happy for that. As far as the apartment building, the property manager has sent out some communications. His letter didn't really indicate anything about if you have difficulty, let us know. It was more just we're here, we're working on the building, it's emergency cases only, so you may not see us around as much, but if you do have a problem with your maintenance, let us know. So I'm a little uneasy about the building, the 48 unit, if we're just gonna have any surprises, what if we only collect 50% of the rent come, in the next week or, a couple weeks. I just don't know in that case. So we're a little anxious about what's going to happen for sure.
So I would say that most of the people that I'm hearing is saying, get proactive, get in front of this thing, don't wait, as well as with your lenders. Don't let it get to June when you've used up all your reserves. Get in front of it, whether you need to do a forbearance or you need to just communicate that, hey, things are going to be changing for us. We don't have enough reserves. That's kind of, the same thing with your tenants. So anybody else? Now, Chris, you told us that your folks are in good shape, right?
Yeah, I've got, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but on a total sidebar, I actually rep like a high interest credit challenged finance line for people to buy furniture, automotive. We cover everything. I do almost $15 million a year in revenue with that. It's crazy. And if you pay it off in 90 days, you don't pay any interest normally on the normal program. But the long and short is I have actually, my company just came out with a line for renters, and it's called Rent Advance. And so it's a high interest loan for people that normally wouldn't qualify, just to eliminate evictions or if they can't pay, but we'll give them 12 months. So let's say they apply and they get a $2,000 approval. They don't have to take all that, but if they need a month or two of rent, they could use it all. And then it's split up into 12 equal monthly payments, right? But it's a 92% approval rate. So damn near everybody gets approved. It's just you're paying high interest. And so for the C properties, it's perfect because there's people that may be in eviction or whatever. So I offered that to pretty much everybody, but nobody really needs it, right? At least my tenants for now, because they're well, no, we have money coming in. We don't really know. And they're thinking probably May is when they're really going to see the effects, if it does affect them. And the hope is the government comes in and helps enough to where food and shelter is covered, which is pretty much where we are right now, right? If you think about it, people aren't spending any money. They're in their houses. So even if their income gets cut substantially, I'm not saying it's not going to be a hardship, but they are likely to pay their rent, even if it's late, and their food until this thing kind of mills over. Now we might have obviously some vacancies and stuff, but I'm not seeing any of that yet. So just food for thought.
I would add that, and if you spend any time on Facebook, that there is an organization, and I don't think they would be considered an organization, but a movement encouraging people not to pay their rent.
Right.
And there's also the thought of, hey, I'm going to keep as much capital as I can.
Sure. Well, I think here's the thing. The thing is, you're right. There is a movement, and you're right. Some people are going to try to take full advantage of the situation. But at the end of the day, while you can't physically evict someone, you can still start the process, and they will be evicted eventually. So they can hold their rent and not pay their bills if they want, if you're willing to work with them and be upfront and proactive and educate them on it, right? Like my thought is, I told people, hey, by the way, because half my tenants didn't even know that our governor put in a no eviction clause. So like I told them, I technically couldn't evict you if I wanted to
Yeah.
today, right? I was upfront about it. I said, but that's never going to be my intention, folks. I'm like, look, I want to work with you. Just here's what I would ask of you. If you can pay rent right now, please do it. And if you're in a hardship by next month, I'm going to work with you. But don't, if you can pay it, don't hold back on me because I have bills that are due, right? So you work with me, I'll work with you. And everybody has been like, cool, I can pay it. One person out of all my tenants needed to be short $100. And I told her I'd add it on to the next month and knock her pet fees off through the remainder of her lease or whatever. And that was it. That's the only negotiation I've had so far. So just food for thought. Like I said, the whole sky's falling, but if you just work with people, I think it might work out a little better.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that's an excellent point.
Well,
there is, no, go ahead. I was just saying it was good that, be proactive, reach out to them and, let them know that you're there to help them if they need it.
Yeah, and I think I would challenge that we knew that there was going to be a recession. I mean, we all are on kind of the edge, like, okay, well, we're waiting for 2 quarters and was it that quarter? Wait, it's maybe not. So maybe this is going to force a recession potentially. And so wouldn't it be a conversation that you say, okay, well, you got 5 months left on your lease. I know that I'm going to maybe let you out of April's or May's, whatever it is. And hey, it's looking like you're going to be, your lease is coming up in 5 months. What if we extend it? And then you've got a longer term tenant that you're not going to find yourself in 2021 when this recession could have some, concessions, right? Or lowering of rents. You've got them locked in a little bit longer. You've showed them that you're willing to work with them. They don't have to pay it within the 5 months to make up for that lost rent. You actually have 12 months. So I think there's some really great ways to have this conversation with your tenant and actually lock them in for a little longer. So just something to think about on your own tendencies.
Yeah, love those creative ideas. That's great.
Yeah. I actually, Mauricio did, on Saturday morning, he did a webinar and he put out a letter. Actually, the attorney, he works with another attorney and she put out a letter. And if you guys are interested, I can post it and give you kind of a outline of how you might want to consider writing, to your tenants, just to give them a heads up. And, again, it might not be April, but it may be May. So just to start thinking about that. We are at April 30th now, and our governor is looking at no school until next September. So this thing could go quite a long way. So I know that we've also extended to 120 days instead of 90 days. So on forbearance, that's another option that as a lender we're giving. And in the past, it's always been kind of the sky is falling, or hurricane or something it has been in default. So now this is not going to hit your credit. I mean, everybody's going to be in the same boat. In 2008, 2010, when we had the crisis, if you saw on your credit that you were defaulting, people understand what was going on back then. And there's a little bit more understanding. And that's the case with the forbearance on the loans. Now, what we have seen is reserves have come up. So instead of you've got 2 months reserves, now we're up to 12 to 18 months of reserves that you need to capital raise, that you need to bring to close. Now it's very fluid and it's changing. And I got updates today from Freddie Typically we'd be looking at a 1.2, 1.25 DSCR. Now we're going to 1.35. And instead of it being 80%, we're looking at 75%. That kind of happened a couple weeks ago. But the forbearance is definitely an option for borrowers. The thing is that you cannot kick out your tenants. So until your tenants are fully paid, you cannot kick them out. Let me take that back. You cannot evict them when you're in the forbearance process, that forbearance time. So you've got 3 months, now they've extended it to 4 months to decide, okay, I'm gonna start at May, and you got till August. So you got May, June, July, August, 4 months, okay? You have a whole year, so now we're talking about 12 plus 4, 16 months to pay that back, and then you can start an eviction. I mean, it's going to get people back on their feet from a borrower standpoint, and it's going to help your tenants stay in your property. You're able to get their rents collected. So forbearance, I would not be ashamed of it. I think a lot of people are going to be going that route, and maybe it's not this month. Depends on if you're talking about Fannie or talking about Freddie. Fannie is going to ask you for P&L, rent roll, reasons why you cannot be in default from the previous 2 or 3 months. Freddie's going to say, okay, what is your hardship? Send me a letter, and we're going to go that route. So there are some different methods in terms of bank lending. Again, forbearance is going to be an option. I haven't spoken with a lot of banks recently, but I was hearing that they're running out of money because grandma took her deposits out. And so, they don't have a lot of capital.
Hey, Julie, question
Yes.
about the 12 months reserves. Is that debt service that the Fannie Freddie is requiring, or is
Yes, well, debt service, it's principal and interest.
Principal and interest? Okay.
Yeah,
Can I
Okay.
add something to the forbearance comment?
sure.
So I spoke to a couple of banks about forbearance because that is normally a phrase used when you are in distress or you're going to foreclose or a hardship. Generally, forbearance generally is a major adjustment to your loan, and it's frowned upon. It's not something that they just give you for fun. It generally goes against your credit, right? And it's reported as such. It generally shows up on your credit report as a missed payment. It doesn't just show up as a block. It's like, no, they know when they look at your credit score, it was there for a reason due to hardship likely. Now, the reason I want to point this out is because I spoke pretty in depth about it with the banks, and 2 different banks couldn't really give me an answer on it, which makes me want to go the latter. In other words, I want to lean towards it's not going to be good down the road for you if you use it. The reason I point this out is on a commercial side, Julie knows far more than I do. I want to speak more to the residential side. If you have a mortgage and you want to push it out because you're in a hardship, but I have a feeling that because Fannie and Freddie are behind all of it anyways, that it's going to be the same when it boils down to it down the road. And what I'm referring to is this. So let's say you file for a forbearance on your personal note, probably similar to what you would do on a mortgage. And they say to you, we're going to give you 3 months skip payments. And let's just use one example of a phone call I had. We'll give you April, May, June off. You don't pay. June, July, August, you do pay. And in September, we restructure your loan. All you do is fill out one simple document, and we either add the months to the end of the note, or we just restructure the note and build those payments into the overall loan. And your payment might be slightly higher, might stay the same, might go down depending on the circumstances. So this was the conversation I had. The question I had though was, okay, so you freeze credit reporting during this time because we're in an unprecedented time, which is true. Like Julie was saying, normally they're reporting, but they're going to freeze that, which is fabulous, right? Because the credit agencies aren't going to know. But when they are going to know is when they restructure the loan at the end, because it has to show up somewhere. So that note restructure shows up. And it may not necessarily say forbearance, but it is going to show in some way, shape, or form on your credit. Now, one of the lenders said to me, yeah, but Chris, think about it. Everyone's going to know that we had the coronavirus. And I said, oh, of course, everyone's going to know we had the coronavirus. but it still shows up. And all it takes is one credit reporting agency to go, oh, so they weren't strong enough in their model, personally or professionally, either way, to get them through this, short-term 60, 90-day issue. I don't know. I know a lot of people had hardships, but I don't know, but I'm not leaving it to chance. I have an 821 credit score. And even if I have the opportunity to push my mortgage payments out, I'm taking a chance that it could be frowned upon later. Because yes, we're in this catastrophe together, but you may be taking a chance. And I just wanted to let you know that, because the lenders couldn't give me an answer really. I said, well, you're telling me it's going to show up as a sort of a handout because it's got to be reported, right? And they said, yeah. And I said, well, is that going to be negative or positive? And they said, well, you need to check with Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. And I'm like, well, good luck with that, right? Like they're going to give you a straight answer what's going to happen 9 months from now. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. I did a lot of research on that, and that's what I found.
Hey, Chris, can I add something? So all those credit bureaus, they actually use FICO score. It's a formula that they keep a secret, how they calculate the score. So I'm hoping that they will adjust their FICO calculations based on this event that we're just going through. So you might really do want to contact them and find out how they're actually planning to put this into their FICO score calculations.
Well, I think that's a good point. Is that Tim? Yeah, that's a good point.
Yes.
And I couldn't agree with you more. You're right. They could, but it's not something that's necessarily going to help a lot of people, and certainly something that's going to benefit them. And my only concern is, like with any government entity or any huge corporation, we're asking them to do something that they don't know yet. Like, in other words, this just hit everybody, right? So we really don't know quite yet, but I would like to research it further. And again, if it doesn't benefit them, it's not necessarily likely that they're going to just do it because it might benefit us. I would love that, but I'm certainly not going to take the chance until I know 100% for sure. So I just want to throw it out there, because if anyone does want to call them, I may call them myself. We have downtime, but very important to know, because it's the devil in the details that sometimes really affects you. And that's like 10 years on your credit if it shows up, right? I mean, especially if it reflects a late payment.
Yes, I think 7 years, but I also wanted to mention that they are actually going through changing their formula right now. The last thing I've heard that they're actually adding utilities, and they also will somehow will erase the fact that people could not pay their rent, or there was something that they were doing to be able to allow people to kind of like reset their bad history or bad reports. So they're doing something really strange. That's something that
if you come across an article, please share it on Slack. Like share it in the Zoom call share channel so that we can all see it. If you come across anything relevant, because that's really good information. I appreciate that.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, and I would say, and then we can move off of this subject, but one of my investors that I'm in contact with, he has a duplex with Bank of America. Bank of America said, sure, yeah, no problem. You don't have to fill out any paperwork. Just tell us when you want. You've got 3 months. And he says, okay, I'm going to start on April, May, June. He said, no problem. Just go ahead and start making the payments. We'll put those 3 payments in the rear. And I was like, you don't have to put anything in writing? Nope. So I said, well, let's see how that goes. And he's like, yeah, I couldn't believe it. Of all companies, Bank of America. Now, I did contact Wells Fargo, and, they're totally backed up for my duplex, and, paperwork if I want to do that. It kind of also gets you thinking, like, what kind of, through this all, A's, class A's are paying their hopefully are going to be paying their bills. B's are working at home. They may have been let go, but the C's and D's that a lot of us are going after for the value add, these people are being hit severely. And so if this is like, everybody talks about multifamily is resistant to the recessions. And who would have ever thought a C would have such the problem that we're seeing right now, this workforce population be, sitting at home, not being able to work. But be aware that C's are working. They're in the restaurants. They're in the construction business. So There is some still in the Cs. I think Bs may be hit because these are the folks that are able to work at home, but they may be going through some downsizing. I know my husband, his company has let go about 15 folks from their company within their structuring. These are people that are working at home, that are making good salaries, that are a B or A or B clients. So it's just gonna, start to get you thinking, like maybe I'm not sure C is for me. Maybe B is something that I'm looking at, or vice versa. I think this is a really interesting time to be looking at your structure, your criteria. Like Nguyen said, where am I going? And I do have to tell you that I was listening to Neil Bawa yesterday, and he said, how he is. He says, everything has to be based on population and crime and all the statistics. And he says, but when there's a deal, I don't care. All of those go, throw them out to the wind. He says, I'll go to Memphis. I will go to areas that I said I would never go to if there's a deal there. So it's really interesting how people are not necessarily following what they have been saying in the past based on, the opportunities. So just something to think about. All right, so we have about 4 minutes. Is there anybody that has something that they had a question on SDA, question on focus, question on finance?
I got a couple questions.
Yes.
Julie, do you know, is there a cap put on this forbearance? I haven't really followed it. Like, you talked about 3 months with Bank of America. Is that is that the number they're throwing out there? I heard something like 12 months for residential.
So it's going to be, you'll have 3 to 4 months. I just recently heard 4 months. Now, again, everything changes. I put together a presentation. I spoke on a webinar for 2 days, and I set my PowerPoint 2 weeks ago. On Thursday, I had to change it. Friday, I had to change it. I spoke on Saturday, I had to change it. So things are constantly changing. But for right now, and when I talk to people, will call me and they'll say, so what's the rates? And I can tell you the rates. But ultimately, we're extending the times. We're extending, just like Chris said, we're going to go into 60-day due diligence or 90-day due diligence, and another 30 or 60 day on contingencies. So the rate, if you're doing a Fannie loan, that rate is not going to be until you have your loan commitment. Just like Gary, it took Gary a good 60 days to get a loan commitment. So that the pricing that you get today is going to be completely different, not only because of where we were at, but again, retrading, because we don't know where those T3s are going to be in 2 or 3 months. So we can certainly still run the quotes for you, and I'm happy to do it, and I want to be helpful to you, but I want you to know and put in some of the stops that say, okay, actually this might not be 4.85. We're quoting 4.85, guys. I mean, I was quoting 2 weeks ago 3.5. We're a whole 130 bips higher than what we were. We just saw the floor rate drop. So my point is that right now they're saying 3 to 4 months on the forbearance, but you do have a year to pay that off. So you do need to be making payments, and you do need to be showing that your tenants they're on a payment program. Mm-hmm. And like with Fannie, you do need to show that your tenants are also being impacted. You have to talk about, what kind of jobs they have, where they were let go. I mean, like a lot of the folks are working in restaurants, and restaurants are, and hotels. This is being impacted terribly. So if you can show to the lenders that this is your your folks that are living in your properties, then they're going to look at helping you on that.
Mhm.
But, 2 weeks ago, forbearance was horrible. Do not get involved. As I'm listening to more and more people say, hey, it is going to happen, we're making it available. We want to help everybody. This is not a hurricane that happened in Houston, for one state. This is huge. No one's ever seen it. We just don't know how, the government wants to help, lenders want to help, get the economy going, get people to be paying the stimulus package. So my point in all this is it's fluid, it's changing. Keep checking in, write on Slack. I think I'm pretty responsive when questions come up. I'm happy to continue to help wherever I can.
I was just going to add, I'm going to share some slides. Maybe people have seen them, but it's from CoStar. And they have some interesting projections on where rents may go in the next, 2021.
Okay. Do you want to share it now?
Yeah, I mean, I could give you a little taste and I can post it later.
Yeah, we're almost at our end here. So
yeah,
if you have just
real
quick.
Yeah, real quick. You guys see that?
I don't see it.
Let's see.
Oh, I see you.
See me, huh? How about that?
I don't see it.
Oh, damn. I just upgraded my system software, probably.
Why don't you post it on Slack? Yeah.
I'll post it. You'll get more out of it. And it's not every market, but yeah, it goes into negative rent projections and whatnot.
Yeah.
So people do have to be careful. Who knows? God only knows. But
I think that we have to be open to understanding that these projections that we had where we're going to be raising rents 100, 200 a month after we do these value adds may need to be put on hold. And if we can keep our properties full, as high vacancy as we can, and maybe we take down the expenses, I think we can, have some stability in our businesses. So you guys, we've come to an end. I appreciate you guys making this a priority. I know there are lots and lots of opportunities out there to get information. I'm so happy that you made this a priority. We will be here. I wanted to kind of keep the information instead of having speakers come while we're in this and we're kind of transitioning. So we're going to keep it a dialogue for the next couple of weeks. I've got somebody coming on in a couple of weeks for hard money loans. That may be an option as well. So once again, I'm going to, in closing, do the right thing, do everything to the best of your ability, and always show people you care, you guys. Thank you so much. Have a great, great night. I'll see you next week. Have a wonderful day.
Bye,
Thank
Julie.
you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.
See you guys.